had actually seen, some of them had seen the workshop I'd done 2 years before at YouTube's facility, and
Henderson?
when they, pardon?
Henderson, Nevada, is that what you mean?
Well, we were at Cal Poly and at the workshop on the 20th, but the Cal Poly EWB team, some of them had seen the first presentation I did on this stuff in 2010.
Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I thought you presented in Henderson, Nevada.
No. Oh well, it was the second time I did it was I was at an international conference there, and I didn't present and I didn't have a poster there, but I flew that.
While you were there.
Yeah, just flew. Yeah, right.
Okay.
That was what that was. But they'd seen the thing, and so when they had a sanitation project in India where they were putting in toilet facilities and routing a line to a septic tank and some other stuff, and they didn't get kites or balloons, so they found a long bamboo pole and did mass photography over these things. And the people who did it were clever enough, even though they're really close to the ground, they laid out a nice grid and then put all the photos from one grid directory, into a subdirectory. And so the guy who stitched them in Photoshop said, if I hadn't had that, I would have had no clue, because there were no ground references, or you couldn't see anything in Google Earth. But they'd made a nice little in-close thing and had incorporated in their design drawings for the routing, showing the septic system and the location of the toilet facilities, and all laid out on this nice little photo map of very fine detail, like right around the buildings and stuff. So it was kind of fun. So when they said they'd take the filled balloon and put it to good use, I thought, these guys are motivated. That's good.
Slipped it.
What happened?
Good. Try not to let the line slip in my hands.
Oh.
That's why I prefer the rubber gloves. That's actually why I put the rubber gloves in the kit, to be honest. Because I like to be able to have a really nice smooth action when I'm pulling the line in. And the rubber gloves give me like a better kind of tactile finger control.
Whereas now you're actually having to kind of
really have to
bend your hand and twist a little bit.
I'm using my whole hand to hold the line.
Yeah.
So these are kind of like, the leather doesn't burn through when you're letting the line out. People complain that with the kits, a couple people got a little bit of a burn through the gloves. So we're switching to these leather gloves, but it's that fine-grained control.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one day we'll start offering, the latex-covered Kevlar gloves.
Well, and the other thing you could do is just make that be a tip. The main thing is to make sure you have your hands protected adequately, and how adequate is a question mark. It's not as severe a need on the balloons, but nonetheless, you can get zapped even with the balloons. But on the big kites, you better have stout hand protection, or you're asking for trouble.
Not ready to fly, yeah.
I still use the rubber gloves on the big kites because when the wind picks up,
I
pull them in. But when I'm letting it out, I make a break out of newspaper.
Ah, okay.
I roll up some newspaper and I run the line through it.
Ah, that's a good way. Yeah.
Nice.
The kid I saw in Chile, a 14-year-old guy who'd been in the kite flying in September, he was at the Quantic Burn Center, and they were treating a keratoid about that big under his armpit, where he'd had a kite injury. A kite line had burned under his armpit and burned/cut him, and they were treating it just like a bad burn scar. And they run a public awareness campaign because they have lots of kids who fly kites during the September celebration of independence, and I guess they used to do more kite fighting and that kind of stuff, and so now they say, the poster says, don't fly near power lines, only use a plain line, don't use a metal line. If your kite gets snagged in the power lines, don't go get it. I think they don't even say, and don't impregnate your line with glass and razor blades and whatever.
Well, that's the fun.
Yeah, right.
Tell the kids to be safe. You can't tell kids not to have fun. Yeah, the glass impregnated line isn't quite as dangerous as the razor blades. Most places people